What's cracking out there, YouTube? Y'all already know how this gonna go. It's your boy 16 to life. Yard down. Back with another prison story for y'all today. So let's hop right into it. Now, back in 1994, I got sentenced to 16 years to life. I ended up doing 24 years straight in California prisons. And so I'm gonna share some of my stories with y'all today. Now, this particular story right here happened in 2005. At that time, I had worked my way down to a level 2, which is like a minimum security prison. Now, the difference between a level 2 and a level 3 and a level 4, a level 3 and level 4, that's cell living. It's just you and your cellie. You know, level 2, they dorm living. So, depending on what penitentiary that you're in and how it's structured, you're going to be in a big old giant building, and then the building is broken down into several smaller cubicles. You know, that cubicle might have 10 bunk beds in there, or it might be a big giant cubicle that have 20 or 30. It just all depends. So that's what a level 2 is. So I get up in there, you know what I'm saying? When I get up in there, I'm meeting people, introducing myself to the homies. You know, I'm trying to see if there's anybody there that I had done some time with in the past, which it wasn't, you know. But I'm meeting the Inland Empire homies and stuff, and just people, period, you know. Now, so after about a couple days or whatever, I meet this dude in the building. His name is Derek. Now, Derek was deaf. Derek was about at Riverside. So now, due to him being deaf, and by just watching him, I could tell that he felt the need to fit in. He wanted to be included. And like I say, I guess because he was different, he felt the need to be included. And plus, he didn't gangbang. He wasn't no Crip or he wasn't no Blood. But dudes would be around, you know, they be having the music playing. He'd be over there nodding his head. I'm thinking, motherfucker, you can't even hear shit. But I guess, you know, he could feel the vibrations or whatever. You know, they'd be drinking coffee. He, you know, so, he'd go over there. They'd give him some coffee. He'd drink some coffee out the cup, smoke weed behind him and cigarettes, you know, eating out of people's bowls and all that. He'd let people eat out his bowl and all that stuff. Sometimes when he'd go to commissary or to canteen, he'd go buy stuff to make burritos, you know, go make burritos. And, you know, everybody in the pen like to eat, you know what I'm saying? Because the food we get is nasty. So, you know, you can go to the canteen and buy shit to make burritos and this and that. Roast beef, you can get roast beef in the can. So he'd go do that shit, you know, be feeding motherfuckers or whatever. So maybe I'm there maybe about a month or two. Now all of a sudden it come out that Derek had got whooped on a couple times and ran out of another prison called Avenal because he was up there performing homosexual activities, basically sucking motherfuckers' dicks and shit. So I tell the homies, I said, well, damn, you know, how long the dude been here? He been here about, you know, 4 or 5 months. I said, you know, y'all ain't handled the shit yet. I just get here, homie. I said, I ain't seen him do the shit. So, you know, it is what it is. So maybe about a two weeks later, now all of a sudden late at night, around 2 or 3 at night, they catch him on a Pisces bed. Now some of the dudes would put sheets up on their bunk, you know, and they'd cover the side of the bed. That way it would give them a little privacy. You don't want to roll over at 2 or 3 in the morning or whatever time it was and always see somebody 2 feet away from you. So like I say, they put the sheets up for a little bit of privacy. So now I guess they go over there, somebody's going to the bathroom or something and see him sitting on the bed, and all of a sudden he jumped back. You know, so they didn't have no definitive evidence the dude was over there sucking dick, but it did look highly suspicious. So, okay, at this point in time, I tell myself, okay, I need to go holler at this dude, man. And so up there they had interpreters, and their jobs was to interpret it for the deaf, you know. But I already knew that due to the situation, this dude wasn't going to be, you know, he didn't want no interpreter there when we talking about this. And of course it was going to be something he was probably going to deny, so I go over there by myself. So what I do, though, is I take me a notebook so I can write him notes and shit. So when I get over there, I say, hey, homie, look, I need to talk to you. So we go to his bunk area. So I write him on the note. I said, hey, man, basically I tell him, hey, man, listen, they saying you running around here sucking dick. So he read it. He said, no, they lie. Now I don't want nobody laughing or nothing, saying I'm making fun of the deaf, but that's how he talk, you know. He said, no, they lie. And then he'd scribble back and he'd write some shit, you know. So I, you know, read it. He said, no, they lying on him or whatever. So I wrote back. I told him, listen, I said, well, man, whatever you're doing to make people even think that, you better stop. Because if they catch you and find out that's true, and you running around here drinking behind people, eating out of people's bowls and smoking weed and cigarettes and drinking Pruno with them, which is homemade wine, prison made wine, I said, man, they gonna want to beat you half to death. So you better stop that shit, you know. So like I say, I sit there about 30-45 minutes with him, you know, clearly letting him know, man, you can't do that shit. So he swore up and down it wasn't happening. I said, okay, homie. So Maybe about 2 or 3 weeks later, he worked in the kitchen. We had another homie from San Bernardino who worked in the kitchen. I can't remember his name at the time. But anyway, he goes in the back to get some pots or some pans or whatever. Damn near right when everybody's getting ready to leave and come up out of the kitchen. And bam, sure enough, Derek in there sucking a Pisces dick. So he come out, he said, oh, hell no, y'all. Hey, man, this motherfucker's gay. I just caught him sucking the Pisces dick. So, of course, motherfuckers like, oh, hell no, hell no. So, as soon as they get off work and come back to the building, of course, it's spread. Motherfuckers is coming back. They telling everybody and all that shit. So, I hear about it. So, I go get at the dude who allegedly caught him. He happened to be in our building too. I said, hey, homie, is it true that you called Derek in there sucking some dick? He's like, yeah, man, I did. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to blackmail him. I'm going to tell him he got to give me X amount of money a month. I said, homie, you can't do that. I said, for one, if you was going to do that, you should have kept that between y'all. I said, that shit is wrong anyway because the nigga don't get no pass. You can't be blackmailing this motherfucker and he running around, doing all this shit, hanging out with motherfuckers and drinking out their food and drinking out their cups and eating their food and shit. I said, the motherfucker got to go, homie, point blank, period. So it was a couple other young cats in the building. Okay, it was a cat by the name of, they say Ozone. Now Ozone claimed he was from 5-Time Rialto, but some people said when he first got there for a month or two, he didn't tell nobody he was from 5-Time. He would just sit on his bunk and be quiet. Then later on, once he got comfortable, all of a sudden it come out he from 5-Time. So whether he was or whether he wasn't, I really don't know. Then there was another cat who didn't bang, but he was from Hemet, which also falls in the Inland Empire, and they both ran with the car. So I go get at him. I fill him in on the situation. I said, listen, tomorrow when Derek get off work, I need y'all to go over there and whoop on him, homie, and get him up out of here. Because they both was young cats, first time at being 18, 19 years old. And Ozone, of course, they both was, okay, yeah, don't trip, we got it. These motherfuckers want to prove themselves or whatever. So the next day come. Now, right before he get off work, my nigga J-Lo come get at me. J-Lo was from East Coast. J-Lo used to do tattoos, and he had done a tattoo on Derek. So he said, hey, chill, listen, man, I know y'all about to whoop on old boy, man. He owed me some money for a tattoo. I said, well, listen, homie, look, I don't pay no grown man's debt, but what I will do is when he come back, we'll go to his locker, and we'll get you $10 worth of shit up out of there. He like, okay, cool. So when he come back, I call him. Now, Derek ain't no dummy. He deaf, but he ain't no dummy. You know what I'm saying? He already know it's some bullshit going on, and probably his ass is on the line. So he leery. So I call him over there. I said, hey man, you done a tattoo the homie done a tattoo on you, and he wants his money. And he said, first draw. I said, well, no, things have been changed, man, and he want to be paid now, because I don't know if I mentioned, I guess they'd agreed that he was gonna pay him first draw when he went to the store. He could get it then, but like I said, now this shit done jumped off. Now he want his money. So we opened it. He opened his locker, go in there and get him, some. I think he gave him some deodorant, some mackerel, some old shit that added up to $10. So I tell him, hey homie, look, lock your locker, because even though I know we get ready to whoop his ass, and some people you may have want to run over there and steal his stuff. But when I first came to the pen, that was something that was, that was a straight out no. You know what I'm saying? Wasn't no stealing going on. That was just, niggas didn't do that. Now, if you go up to somebody and you just take something right off their hand, that's between you and that dude. But all that sneaky shit, stealing, that wasn't allowed. So you know what I'm saying? That's what I was raised up under. So that's what I pushed. So long story short, he shut the locker. So I tell him, hey homie, come over here, let me holler at you. Now I'm trying to walk him over into this blind spot so the homies can do their shit. But Derek wouldn't know. He said, no. He wouldn't bring his ass over there, right? The motherfucker had enough sense not to bring his ass in that blind spot. So I said, come on, man, we need to talk to you. He wouldn't come. So I tell a homie, I said, fuck it, man, get the nigga right here then, fuck it. So boop, bop, boop. They start mixing him just right there, start busting him up. They whoop on him a good minute, 2 minutes. They own him, busting him up. So as soon as he get up and run away, he runs straight up into the office where the COs is. I'm like, oh man, this motherfucker's in there telling. So now we can look in there and see. Now he doing this. He pointing out there, basically saying, these dudes done jumped on me. So then he started pointing at the board. The board is a list of everybody's bed area, and it got people's face up there. So I said, oh man, this motherfucker in there telling. So now I'm thinking to myself, man, I should have let these motherfuckers steal his shit. So they handcuff him and shit, take him to the hole. Maybe about 2-3 weeks later, they come with the 115, which is a write-up, a disciplinary action. So the other dude, Ozone, he didn't parole by this time. He didn't parole and went to the house. So now it's just me and Charlie Brown. So I'm reading the shit. I'm like, oh man, we can catch a shoe term. The shoe is the segregated housing unit. It's really the hole. That's all it is, And so I said, oh man, we can catch some time in the hole for this. This shit carried like 3 months hold time. So they end up later on, they end up finding us guilty, but they don't give us no shoot time. So they just took like 90 days, 120 days, or whatever it was. So, okay, I also at that point, I worked on the outside grounds crew. And even though this was a level 2, they also had a level 3 and a level 4 facility on the same compound. So we walk around to other units, picking up trash, cutting the grass, all this old type of shit. So one day, I'm walking out there, I'm on the job and shit, and all of a sudden I hear somebody is bamming on the window. So I look up, trying to locate where the shit is coming from. So I hear, so I'm looking up, and then I see somebody shove a piece of paper in the window. Now the piece of paper got they done drew a big old middle finger on the motherfucker, and he waving the paper around. He doing like, so the middle finger's going like this. And then under the middle finger, it said, fuck you, Chili. So I'm like, who the fuck is that? So he doing the paper, and all of a sudden he snatched the paper out the way, and it's Derek. I said, oh man, fuck you, you dick sucking motherfucker. So I'm laughing and shit, And so, and then I got another funny related story. So just so happened, his name happened to be Derek Willis. And my name is Eric Willis. And he had, like, when you come to the pen in California, depending on what time you come, they gonna give you a number. My number was K13077. His number, he had like a K2. He had a K2, 5, 6, 7, some type of number like that or whatever. So years later down the line, it's like maybe 2010, 2011, when I had to go to the board in order to try to get out because I was a lifer. So before you go to the board, you got to have a psych hearing. You got to go see the psych. Now, before I went to the board back in the days, the psych used to ask you all type of weird ass questions and shit. So I'm in here, I'm already knowing about this, so I'm trying to go in there and be professional, got myself prepared, mentally prepared. I'm telling myself, I'm not just to overreact to nothing. Stay calm and shit. So I go in there, he get to asking me questions, this and that, basically my background, how I grew up and this and that. And at some point in time, he's reading through all the disciplinary actions that I didn't got. Well, yeah, you says here you got into a riot, such and such a time, you got into a fight at this year, blah, blah, blah. And then he look at the paper that he read, and he look up at me. Then he looked down at the paper again. Then he looked up at me. And I'm thinking, like, what the fuck is this motherfucker tripping off of? Then he looked back down at the paper. I could tell he reads something. Then he says, it says here in 2005, you were assaulted for performing a homosexual activity? I said, hell no, motherfucker. You better read that shit again, right? So now, as I think about it, it's funny, but at that point in time, I'm mad. I said, because I already knew what he was talking about. I already knew. I said, no, man, me and the dude had the same last name. Read that again. Don't think I'm running around doing no shit like that. So he read it again. He said, oh, okay, yes, I do see. It's Derek Willis, and his number is such and such and such and such. So, like I say, as I think about it now, man, that made me laugh. That was a little funny story, At the time, I didn't find it funny. But anyway, the moral of the story is also this. When you in the pen, certain shit you do is gonna come to the light. We didn't whoop his ass or whatever, or he didn't get his ass whooped because he was a homosexual. He got his ass whooped because he was a homosexual and he lied about it. Like I say, you can't be running around sucking dick and then, drinking and smoking with motherfuckers, because everybody don't appreciate that shit. You know what I'm saying? So if that's what you gonna do, you gotta have the balls to say, hey man, this is who I am and this is what I'm doing, and give people the right, and the choice to fuck with you or not. So like I say, man, y'all be safe, stay up, man.